This is Bradley David Good, and I'm going to be reading a section of my book. You can download the book at the link below. This section is called Storing Meat, Dairy, and Eggs. Glass versus plastic. Meat and dairy are best stored in glass rather than plastic, because plastic can leach into the meat and dairy. This can introduce harmful chemicals and negatively affect bacterial growth. Meat storage, aging, and high meat. Meat that has been raised and processed with no chemicals contains many beneficial enzymes, bacteria, and possibly other organisms. Meat stored in the refrigerator or at room temperature continues to increase in these organisms. If it is uncovered, it will dry age and will not contain as many organisms as if it is covered. If covered, use a container that allows at least half of the container to be air, so that the meat has adequate air to breathe. Every 3 days or more often, remove the container from the fridge, uncover it, turn the meat over, and allow it to get fresh air, or leave it out to warm up for a little while, being careful not to allow flies into it. The reason for the airing is to allow fresh air for the process of healthy bacterial growth. Otherwise, the bacteria will stagnate or may turn anaerobic and create harmful organisms. I have read that harmful organisms can be created if there is not enough air in the container. I have also read that if the container does not have adequate air and has not been opened for fresh air in some time, to just get back on schedule and the bacteria will normalize in some time. People commonly age meats this way for a month, and some eat them up to a year old. This is called high meat. High in bacteria and makes you feel high. Ancient cultures like the Eskimo have a long history of eating aged or rotten meat. It can also be buried in the ground and dug up later. Large parts of animals, such as a shoulder and leg or an entire rib cage, can be hung on meat hooks in a stand-up refrigerator. Models are now sold that can be used as either a freezer or a refrigerator. This is a good option for someone who likes to buy a whole animal or large parts at a time and does not want to process and package it all at once or use plastic. Milk storage and aging. Raw milk can be kept in the fridge if desired, which will slow down growth and souring. I often get it from the farm in the early morning, still warm from the cow. I do not cool it in the car on the way home and leave some at room temperature when I get home. As the days go by, it gets more sour each day and starts to develop lumps of cheese. I love it this way, and I believe that it keeps more nutrients and beneficial organisms intact. I do not shake it hard, but turn it upside down a few times to mix the cheese or curds with the whey before pouring. If it totally separates after many days, I may strain it with a strainer bag or cheesecloth and eat the cheese separately and drink the whey. The whey can also be used for fermenting vegetables or sourdough bread. A2 milk is from an older breed of cows. I have found that it digests much easier for me. If it was in the fridge, I always get it out to warm up for at least 5 to 24 hours. People have had issues digesting cold, raw milk. Some needed to start with just 1 teaspoon a day and work up or whatever is tolerated. I find that eating raw meat with raw milk digests better than milk by itself. Pasteurized milk is cooked. This kills all the natural bacteria that normally keep other things at bay in raw milk. The pasteurization does not fully kill fungus, which goes into a spore mode. If you leave pasteurized milk out at room temperature, it will putrefy, stink, and make you sick if you drink it. When refrigerated pasteurized milk, butter, or cheese is eaten, the warmth of the body reactivates the fungus spores, which then eat the dead bacteria killed by pasteurization, and over time sets up its own fungal microbiome in the gut. I don't eat or drink any pasteurized dairy. Warming up to room temperature. I get my meal out 2 to 5 hours ahead of time usually, as long as I have a place to let it sit at room temperature in order to activate the enzymes and bacteria and to let it get warm. I keep about a pound of raw, no-salt butter out on the counter at room temperature most of the year and backup pounds in the fridge. In the summer, when my non-air-conditioned house is warmer, I keep less out on the counter at a time because it ferments too quickly for my liking. It's all preference, really. I guess if the temperature is too hot for too long, it may be a problem, but I don't think so because the internal temperature of a cow is 102 degrees Fahrenheit. Raw no-salt cheese is basically the same way as butter. I leave some out for a while. It first grows a white mold, then usually green. I eat the mold and all because it is beneficial. I would never throw away raw cheese unless it was in the sun or very hot for a long time. I think it just keeps getting better at room temperature or in the fridge. I get pastured eggs from a chemical-free farm, unwashed and not refrigerated. Washing eggs removes a natural protective film and is not necessary for pastured eggs when the hens were grazing and fed a natural diet. Keeping them at room temperature preserves nutrients, enzymes, and beneficial bacteria. I keep eggs up to a month in a dark cabinet. I keep a dozen on the counter. That ends this section. Have a great day.